Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This year, experience the NHL Playoffs your way. Want to watch a single? Do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series. Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Welcome in. It is the Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza sitting across from me. Christian, how are we doing this morning, man?
It's been a week.
It has been a week.
It's been a week.
It has been a week.
Crazy week here in Salt Lake City with the Mammoth having their backs against the wall all week, essentially, and
a lot of fun hockey, though.
Yeah,
ultimately
it's over.
Hockey.
But man, the environment here in Salt Lake City, even going back to not last night, but the Friday before with the first home game ever, it was awesome, man, and it was really special to be a part of it. And it feels like there's something brewing here with this Mammoth team and this Mammoth organization, and it just feels like the start of something special. And
absolutely,
a lot of people are going to remember this first series. There are a lot of new Mammoth fans that maybe weren't paying attention earlier on in the season, but they catch the playoff fever and they're like, oh man, this is really cool. And so, yeah, the last week has been really, really fun. Can't wait to break it down. We're going to do that here in a second. But outside of that, I'm doing great. Birthday shout out to my wife real quick.
Hey,
it was her
there you
birthday
go.
yesterday, so
Happy birthday.
happy birthday to her. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Sean behind the glass producing. Sean, you good? Everything good back there?
Oh, yeah. I had my first grill session.
Hey, there you
Made
go.
some steaks.
Wow.
There you go.
May 1st, busted out the grill.
Medium rare?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of steaks?
Ribeye, of course.
Wow.
Fancy.
Oh, my goodness.
That's awesome, man.
I'm jealous.
They were thin. They weren't like nice stick cuts. They're
You know
as
what,
cheap as
man?
I could find.
You know what, man? With how beautiful the weather is out today, I might have to get out there and make some steaks myself on this wonderful Saturday morning. Let's jump in and talk talk Mammoth, and I want to talk a little bit about too the overtime games that happened earlier this week. I won't focus on them too much, obviously, since we had that game last night to eliminate the Mammoth, but the interesting stat, Christian, that I kept seeing all week long was the Mammoth and how they led in the third period for just about every game of this series, and yet weren't able to hold on, weren't able to close it off. And just imagine how differently things could have been had, the Mammoth won either that Monday overtime game where they let the lead slip in the third period, or in Vegas where they just had to hold on for 53 seconds.
Yeah.
53 seconds.
So that's actually, I'm glad you bring up that 53 seconds, because that's one thing I noticed last night. The Golden Knights got their second goal of the game with less than a minute left. It was like 45 seconds left in the second period. And the Knights put that in the back of the net, and I was thinking, I'm like, man, it feels like this Mammoth team, especially throughout this playoff series, had a real problem with giving up goals in the final minute of a period, whether it's a regulation period or an overtime period. I'm thinking of the game that went to single overtime and they lost. That goal they allowed with like 53 seconds left, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, 45 seconds left last night. And there were a few other periods throughout the series where, yeah, the Knights just put a puck in the back of the net with less than a minute remaining.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like, was that part of the mentality of this team where they kind of felt back up against the ropes, feeling the pressure, and knowing that Vegas is obviously more experienced and they've been here before? If maybe there was a mentality that started creeping through this Mammoth team of, okay, can we just close out the period? And when you start thinking of, we just got to finish this period and then we get a break, and that's like the worst thing to do, right? Because that's when you start playing way too defensive and sometimes even making mistakes. And I think Like I said, I noticed that way too many times with this team this series. And I don't know, man. It is really weird to notice that pattern. Like less than a minute left and the Knights have a puck and it feels inevitable.
The Monday game was super fun. And it was honestly, I thought something that the Mammoth could build on because you're down 3-0 early in the second period. I think 3 minutes into the second period, Cole Smith scores to make it 3-0, and then all of a sudden the Mammoth come roaring back at Delta Center. Nick Schmaltz gets a goal, Ian Cole gets a goal, Carcone equalizes, and then you have Clayton Keller who puts the Mammoth up with 5 minutes left, and it felt like the team got really defensive, really, really conservative really quickly. Howden scores, and then obviously Theodore gets the goal late in overtime. The second overtime game, too, was heartbreaking and a little bit of a gut punch for the Mammoth, I think, because you have, the shorthanded goal where the Mammoth are up on the power play, and then you allow Howden again to score the winner that down there in Vegas in the second overtime. But then last night, man, not the most ideal time to have your one of the worst performances you've had in this entire series. Obviously, it's you're down 3-2. Vegas are trying to close out the series and get the win, and the Mammoth, I thought, lacked a little bit of that bite that we've seen earlier in the series yesterday to close out Game 6. Well,
and it was interesting too because the Mammoth did cut it to a 2-1 game. 7 minutes into the third period.
Gave a lot of people hope.
And you hear the Delta Center pop, and you see that clip going around, and then basically less than a minute later, Vegas responds, and that literally you felt the back break of the Mammoth.
There's a lot of things that I think plague the Mammoth this series and ended up being bad for the Mammoth.
That was the other big mistake.
I think that's one of the things that plagued them a lot, too, is the fact that you score a goal and then immediately concede it on the other end. And in this case with Kyler Yamamoto, that's what happened exactly last night.
Yeah, and again, I hate to just throw the word experience out there, but it's just, it seems like with the youth of this Mammoth team, sometimes they make a mistake or something doesn't go their way or they're just trying to get to the end of the period and they're like, let's just get through this. Versus when you saw Vegas face adversity, they trailed in 3 third periods and they were able to win.
Yep.
The Mammoth had every chance to win this series, man. Every chance. They led in, 3 third periods, and they had a lead, and they blew them. So, I don't know. That kind of leads me to something I wanted to ask you about. I wanted to get your thoughts on, right? Because we heard in the preseason, basically, Coach Tourney, GMBA, Bill Armstrong, going around saying that they had been building, they had been rebuilding, and this year they were ready to take the step towards being a playoff team. And then they fight all year, they secure the top wild card spot, they become a playoff team. And now that the season is over, the series is over, it's like, okay, are you satisfied with the way that this season went? Taking the Golden Knights to 6 games, 3 of those losses you led in the third period, or do you feel like, man, you kind of let this one slip away from you? And I'm curious to your thoughts because I've seen a lot of back and forth on social media.
I think first and foremost, the future is bright for this team.
Yeah.
No matter which way you put it, no matter how you look at it, the future is bright. You know what's the amount of prospects that they have in the pipeline that are potentially going to be coming up here in the near future. The young core of this team, the Cooley, the Gunther, the Keller, the young core that the Mammoth have. There is a lot, I think, as far as the future being bright for this team, but you heard it time and time again. Anytime that GMBA would jump on the station early in the season, anytime that Andre Tourney would jump on the station early in the season, they talked about the goal being the playoffs. They talked about the goal is just to make it to the playoffs. Cole Bagley, our Utah Mammoth insider here on KSL Sports, last night also reminding people of that on Twitter last night and putting that out there that the goal was to make the playoffs. And I think that there is a lot of positives and a lot that you can look forward to in the future with this team, with it being a bright future, with the young core, with the young players that they have coming up, etc. On obviously decisions and moves that they can make in the offseason. I think, though, once you go toe-to-toe with the Vegas Golden Knights the way that you did, to force the 2 overtimes, to be leading in the third period as much as you did, I think ultimately there can be a sense of disappointment, and I think that ultimately there can be a sense of so close yet so far type feeling when you look at this series and lose 4-2 to the overall to the Golden Knights. And I hope that drives a message in the locker room. That disappointment drives a hunger in that locker room for next season to not only improve your point total, not only improve, where you were in the regular season, but also next year it's about getting to the playoffs and making an actual run in the playoffs rather than just being satisfied and the goal being, hey, let's just make it to the playoffs.
Well, I don't think anybody in the locker room or organization should just be satisfied with this season. Because why would you be, right? The ultimate goal is to win a Stanley Cup. And that's what Ryan Smith has said. And no, this team is not close. I'm not trying to pretend like this was their one shot to win a Stanley Cup and they're never going to be in the playoffs again. Because, that's the whole point of the long rebuild that this organization entered, going back to when they were still in Phoenix, right? They're playing the long game. And this is the first year of really being a playoff team, really being a relevant team in the NHL. Last year was fun. Last year was the introduction and, hey, this is so cool. And welcome to the NHL, guys. It's nice to have Salt Lake City as part of the league. That's completely different. This year, it really was establishing themselves like, hey, you got to take the Utah Mammoth seriously. They're not like some of these other teams that are still rebuilding or still bad.
Yeah.
The Mammoth are in the same category as other young teams like the Anaheim Ducks, like the San Jose Sharks, like some of these young up-and-coming teams that just have a ton of really young talent, right? So now you get the taste of playoff experience and you know that you had this series in the palm of your hand essentially, right? The Mammoth led the series at one point. Again, 3 of their 4 losses in this series, they held a lead in the third period. They had every opportunity to take this series home. And now you know what went wrong. Now you're going to make some, adjustments in the offseason.
Yeah.
And your players are going to know what it's like being in the playoffs. Like some of these guys that have never been here before, that can't be an excuse, right? We heard so many times like, oh yeah, Logan Cooley's never been Dylan Guenther's never been in the playoffs before. That's not an excuse anymore.
It can't, no.
So I'm excited to see what happens over the next couple months as you've got free agency and the draft and all that sort of stuff. And we'll see if GMBA makes some big swings. And I think that is my next kind of waiting and see thing. Like, does Bill Armstrong feel like this roster is good enough to just keep together and develop, or do they feel like they need to go get another piece? Because we saw the JJ Peterka trade. We saw the Mackenzie Weegar trade. I don't think any of those 2 players really performed up to the expectations that they were expecting when they got them.
Yeah.
But Cole Bagley brought up a good point yesterday with Jake and Ben. It's been less than a year, right? Like, you can't judge those trades right away. And I know it stings when Josh Doan is having a great season over in Buffalo, but I mean, JJ Peterka is still on the Mammoth. Mackenzie Weegar is still on the Mammoth. We got plenty of time to see them get better.
There's been a lot of criticism online about JJ Peterka.
Yeah.
And obviously that was a big talking point earlier this week where Andre Tourney, was it the first OT or the second OT game where he benches JJ Peterka and he doesn't return onto the ice. And obviously that's met with a lot of scrutiny. Andre Tourney talked about it in post-game press conferences and as well as some of the after-practice media availabilities and I think even a morning skate. But JJ Peterka has been a talking point a lot during this playoff series and about how he's underperforming. But you're absolutely right. Like, it's been less than a year, and to Cole's point, it's going to take a minute to truly judge where these guys are at. I still think J.D. Peterka can come in and be a massive difference maker for the Mammoth next season. Maybe get another season under him, a little bit more experience under him. But we'll see, man. We'll see how ultimately that trade pays off.
Yeah, it's tough because you make that trade, you trade away. I think part of the reason the trade stings is because you gave away a fan favorite, right? And everybody knows that. And then you come in selling that this dude had, 60 or 70 points last year, and you're expecting him to come and be electric, and he just wasn't. And he wasn't in the regular season, and he wasn't in the playoffs. And we saw flashes, no doubt about it. But, I mean, he's definitely not above criticism because there's a reason Tourney benched him. There's a reason he saw his ice time decline. And that really hurts. But at the same time, again, never been in the playoffs before. which is totally valid right now to say, like, as an excuse. That's totally, it's understandable for some of these young guys to be in over their heads a little bit. Next year, you can't use that excuse.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, what happens over the next couple of weeks and months, we will see. I am really, really interested to see where the organization feels like they are at this point, because I think they're not really going to tell us what needs to be done, but they're going to show us, right? If they stand pat in free agency, if they don't do anything big, then yeah, that's a clear sign that they trust what they have in this roster. But if they go out and make another trade, maybe that is a signal that they feel like, they need some more help.
Yeah. Obviously, at the beginning of this year, we talked about a little bit GMBA and Andre Tourney making it known that the goal was to make the playoffs, and the goal was just to make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now I am curious to see what the conversation is like as they head into next season, and what the goal will be heading into next year. The captain, Clayton Keller, he talked about the belief in this group, and he talked about the belief and the experience of this team, and how that all this was a good learning experience for next season as they try to make a deeper run into the playoffs next year.
I believe so much in this group and the guys that we have, and the character and guys that love coming to the rink and getting better every single day, and it's so fun to come to the rink with these guys. So excited about the future. We're only going to get better. This sucks, but we'll learn from it. We'll break it down, and next time we're in this situation next year, we'll get over the hump.
That's all you can do, man. Learn from it and use that to drive your hunger for next season. Again, as the Mammoth will look to make a deeper run into the playoffs. I think next year, now that you have that experience, it's not just about making it. You have to go through and win a series, and depending on how the Mammoth shake up next season and how everything looks, maybe possibly a second series and make a deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I think Clayton Keller deserves a lot of credit for his performance last night.
Yeah.
You look at the shots taken by this Mammoth team, and first off, Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther having one shot on goal apiece. That's inexcusable.
Disappointing. Yeah, that's disappointing.
In an elimination game. But on the flip side, you've got Clayton Keller, who's normally not a shooter, right? But he's got 7 shots on goal this game. It's not very often that you're going to have a game where Keller has 7 shots on goal. But I think that is a sign of your captain realizing that, hey, this is do or die. Somebody's got to step up and try to put the puck in the back of the net. And ultimately, none of those 7 shots went in, right? But I like seeing the aggressiveness from Clayton Keller. And I know that he's never going to be a shooter, a scorer. He is always going to be that pass-first kind of player. But I do think the next step in his development, if there is any, right, if he wants to become a true star in this league, it would definitely be him taking that step towards being an all-around forward instead of just kind of the creator and the passer, right?
Yeah.
If Keller can find a way to become a guy who can consistently score, the first season here when they were the Utah Hockey Club, he was on the verge of a 100-point season. He was so close. And if he can really dial that in and just be more aggressive, I think that's what it is, honestly. I think it's just a matter of him being more aggressive and taking more shots. He can be a 100-point per season player, and I would want to see that, because I think the Mammoth need that. Obviously, you've got Cooley and Guenther, who are the young up-and-coming stars, right? But Keller's the dude in his prime right now, and that's what I want to see from him next year, is him just being more assertive.
I can't remember what game it was exactly, but I remember after a game, Clayton Keller went to the media and essentially said that he wants to set up his guys, he wants to set up his players, and he wants to be the assist guy. But I think in some moments you do want some more aggressiveness from a guy like Clayton Keller, and you do want him to get more points, get more goals. And last night when the Mammoth needed a hero, you expect guys like him to step up, and I thought that he did step up for the most part when having those 7 shots. But there are a couple guys on this roster like Dylan Guenther, like Logan Cooley, who I thought started the series off really, really strong, and then they kind of fizzled out. And I don't know if that's credit to the Vegas and kind of playing their style of hockey and doing a good job on Logan Cooley, on Dylan Guenther. But there's moments like last night when Utah's on the power play when you want Dylan Guenther to take those shots, and you want Dylan Guenther to be open to potentially score a goal, and essentially it just didn't work out for him. It didn't work out for him. Logan Cooley, I thought, fizzled out as you got deeper into the series. And again, those are young guys who are going to learn and going to take this experience and hopefully get better from it. But the end of their series wasn't as strong as their beginning.
I totally agree. Yeah, those first couple games, man, Cooley was one of the best players on the ice.
Absolutely.
And you saw that clip of Dowd threatening to freaking kill Logan Cooley, right? Like, that's a 35-year-old man talking to a 21, 22-year-old, threatening to kill him on the ice because he's threatened, because he's so good, right? And we just, as you mentioned, that fizzled out. And honestly, it got to the point where Vegas just got in Cooley's head. And I think, credit to them, they did a really good job of throwing Cooley off his game and honestly forcing him to commit a ton of penalties. Because penalties are not something
That's
that
true.
we saw Logan
Yeah.
Cooley commit very much throughout the regular season, but especially over the last 2 or 3 games, he was spending some time in the penalty box. And it's not like he was out there losing his cool or anything like that. He just, it's almost Vegas putting Cooley in a vulnerable position to commit those penalties. You see some of those high sticking calls and things like that where it's like, really a borderline call. Like, some of those I don't think should have been called. Let's be honest. But at the end of the day, they are called, and you send Cooley to the penalty box, and then he's like almost afraid to be aggressive because he's spending, he's getting all these penalties called on him. So that's when you talk about a playoff experienced team, that's what they do, is they find a way to negate the other team's best players, because the Mammoth couldn't find a way to shut down Mitch Marner and Dorofeev and some of these Golden Knights.
I was waiting for Mitch Marner to arrive. He hadn't scored a goal all series, and then last night puts 2 past Vejmelka. And, he's obviously for how big that trade was in the offseason and how big it was to get Mitch Marner out to Vegas, I was waiting for him to kind of put his stamp on things and score that goal, and it finally came last night when...
Caught him sleeping, really.
Caught him sleeping.
Caught him sleeping.
Absolutely. Let's hear from Andre Turney, the head coach of the Utah Mammoth. He gave his thoughts about this loss, about being eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, and what he wants his guys to learn from it.
I don't really know what to tell you tonight. Hurt. I didn't have that in my bingo card. I was really confident we will go to Vegas tomorrow. I assume some will ask me questions about the season and this and that. My head is not there at all. I'm disappointed. Not mad at the player, I'm mad at the fact we lost. And when you're competitive, I hate excuses. I hate taking the easy way out. So failure makes you stronger. You learn from it and makes you better. But in order to make sure that happens, it has to hurt. I don't even want to feel good about it. I want that to hurt, and I want to learn from it. And there will be a ton of things we will unpack and learn and grow as a coach, as a player, as an organization. Our crowd was unbelievable for us all season long. In the playoff, there was another level. Well, really love to win it for them.
He wants it to hurt.
Well, yeah.
That reminds me of the conversations and what everybody was talking about. I can't remember who brought it up specifically, but the scars and how the team lacked scars and lacked the experience. And he wants it to hurt. Hopefully this leaves, again, we were talking about earlier, hopefully this leaves that scar that the team needs and wants going forward. And again, as Andre Turney mentioned it, just learn from it.
You know what this reminds me of? And I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate, right? Playing high school sports, I'm thinking high school football specifically, right? Like sophomore and junior year, the end of the season comes and last game of the season, and I went to Box Elder. We were not very good. We missed the playoffs or like got bounced in the first round of the playoffs every year. And that final game comes around and all the seniors are crying because it's over. And as a sophomore or junior, you're like, oh, that's sad. Like, yeah, this sucks. Oh, well, I'm still going to come back next year, right?
Yeah.
And then by the time your senior year comes around, your season ends and you're like, this really hurts. Like, this really, really hurts because you had never understood the stakes before, I guess. And then you feel that pain and you're like, man. This...
And then all of a sudden you do.
Yeah, it's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
And so now, the Mammoth are in the playoffs and they're like, okay, this is fun. This is our first playoff series ever. Yay, it's so exciting in Salt Lake. Like, this is really cool. And then everybody's like, yeah, but, your season is going to be over if you lose this series. And they're like, okay, well, maybe we'll just keep playing. And we've got some opportunities. That's okay. We're doing really good. We might push it to 7 games. That's so exciting. And then Game 6 ends and you're like, dude, we lost 1 game in overtime, 1 game in double overtime, We
held
blew all
the
these late leads.
Yeah, had all these leads.
Like, this really, really hurts. We feel like we left so much meat on the bone. And I totally agree. I love that statement from Tourney. Like, you want this to hurt. You want these players to feel like, man, we did not perform to the best of our ability. Because, Alex, I'm sitting here right now, the morning after Game 6, and to me, it feels more like the Mammoth let this series slip away rather than Vegas just dominating every game. And you look
absolutely not. They went toe-to-toe, I feel like, every single game.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I know that last
yesterday.
night, but even last night's score was lopsided, right? 5-1, the final. It was a 2-1 game halfway through the third period. So I don't know, man. And that's, again, on paper, you say, okay, you've got this one team playing in the playoffs for the first time ever, and the other team who just won the Stanley Cup 3 years ago.
Right.
Which one's going to win?
Right.
Obviously, you'd pick the team that's been here before. But for the Mammoth to push this series so far and have it so close and go toe-to-toe, again, that's where you credit Vegas, because they know what it takes. They know the stakes. They know what to do and when to do it. But really, man, if you are a Utah Mammoth player right now, if you're one of these young guys, it's almost a good thing that they experienced this in their first taste of playoffs ever. So now when they're back to playoffs again, they never want to feel like this, because this sucks. This is terrible.
Credit to Vegas, man. And credit to the move that they made right before the season ended. In March, they move on from their head coach. John Tortorella comes in, and they go on this incredible winning streak to end up winning the division. And then Tortorella uses his playoff experience to dispatch of the Utah Mammoth, and the Vegas Golden Knights move on. John Tortorella gave a lot of credit, though, to Utah in the postgame press conference. And what we were talking about earlier about the future being so bright, he also recognizes and he realized that this young core, it can be and will be very good, and talks about Utah's future in the postgame press conference.
It was a hard-fought series. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Andre and his staff, and that's a good hockey team. I guess we were favored, but that team didn't win 40-plus games, and if you look at their metrics as far as their regular season, that's a team they're going to be reckoned with for quite a while now, as far as some of the kids and skill and speed that they have. We're fortunate moving on, but I think Andre and his staff have done a fantastic job with that team.
Massive credit to Tortorella and the turnaround that he had at Vegas, because I remember seeing all the doubts and all the criticisms about the Vegas Golden Knights right before the playoffs started and right before Tortorella took over, and he's been able to turn around, and they looked a lot better. They definitely have played a lot better, and Tortorella's I think there's potential for this Vegas team to make to continue making a deep run. With the way that they're playing right now, and with the turnaround that he's been able to have with this Vegas team.
Yeah, the coach thing is weird. I've never seen that before, and I don't know how common that is in hockey. I guess a couple other teams have done that.
It just seems crazy for someone to come in right before the end of the season.
8 games.
And to have this turnaround.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe the more that they play with Torts, the better this team is going to get, and truly unlock their potential, because again, as I mentioned, like, this is a team that was hoisting the trophy just a few years ago, and they have only seemingly added talent since then. I mean, Marner is a great player, one of the best scorers in the league, so who knows? I think they're going to get past Anaheim, just talking about their next opponent, and then they'll be in the Western Conference Finals, probably against the Avalanche. That might be a fun series. I don't know. The Avalanche kind of steamrolled everybody, but you never know what's going to happen in the playoffs. We'll see.
I still think it's the Avs Western Conference to lose.
Could be.
All right, we got to take a break here on the Saturday Show. More on the other side when we return. Don't go anywhere. It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Alex Napoles. That's Christian Esparza. Thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Let's talk some college football. Obviously, the big news this week happening inside the Big 12 is that Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby under NCAA investigation for gambling. He's going to enter a rehab treatment program for his for a gambling addiction. And I think this completely changes the complexity of what the Big 12 might look like come August. Obviously, Texas Tech splashing big amounts of money for Brendan Sorsby, pulling in from Cincinnati. Texas Tech, I think every poll that I've seen, every prediction that I've seen, Texas Tech was the runaway favorite for the Big 12. But now without Sorsby, does it change how people view the Big 12? And does it change who comes out of the Big 12 in that Big 12 championship game?
Oh, no doubt about it, Alex. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of undersell how good Brendan Sorsby is. He's one of the best passers, not in the Big 12, but just in the country. Before all this, you pull up any way too early mock drafts for next year's 2027 NFL draft, and they all have Sorsby as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
This is a dude that, at Cincinnati was good, and he was supposed to go to Texas Tech and be great. And you look at Texas Tech from last year and the quarterback play they had from Baron Morton and Will Hammond, that was their one kind of weak spot. Like, they did not have a dynamic passing game. And Sorsby was supposed to come in and be the cherry on top, man. He was supposed to be basically one of the faces of college football.
Yeah.
At Tech.
As far as, going from Baron Morton to Sorsby, I do think that's a step up. And I think
it's 3 steps up.
Yeah, that's absolutely what they needed last season, right? You remember the college football playoff game that they had and how much their offense struggled against that Oregon defense. And I thought too, this is a step, going into this, despite losing a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, I still thought they brought in some good transfers. I still thought that they now had a step up in the offense with Brendan Sorsby coming in. But obviously this completely changes all that conversation now that he may or may not be eligible to play next season. Obviously, his eligibility isn't impacted yet, and it will be subject to what comes out of this NCAA investigation. But I think everybody now is operating with that in mind, that the precedent in all this is that he will no longer be eligible to play college football. And
I'd be shocked if he does.
Yeah.
Because he was on Indiana, betting on Indiana
on
games.
his own games, yeah.
And even though he didn't appear in them, that is still incredibly illegal. Even as a college football player, you can't bet on college football at all.
Yeah.
Much less on the team that you play for. Not to mention he was below gambling age. He was younger than 21. He should not have been allowed to be making these bets anyways. I don't know how any of this happened.
I saw some On3 report that was saying that he was making up to 20 bets a day.
Yeah. Well, the rumor was, too, that while he was at Cincinnati, he would go to Reds games and do live bets on the pitch.
Yeah.
Next ball's a strike. Next one is a ball. And he was betting, $1 or $2 per pitch, and that adds up over the course of a game, man. Thousands and thousands of bets over the past few years. And yeah, the NCAA is definitely going to look at this. And again, I would be shocked if he comes back, and there are going to be a lot of conspiracies about, is Texas Tech kind of the golden child of the NCAA if they do allow Brendan Sorsby to come back without any sort of suspension? Because I don't see...
That would open up a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, I don't see how... I mean, even if he does come back and get like half a season, that's just setting such a dangerous precedent for every NCAA athlete saying, yeah, you can go out there and do this and only miss half a season.
Absolutely.
And I just don't see a world in where that is a good thing to do. You talk about the wild, wild west and everything that college football has turned into over the last 5 years. This is the NCAA's chance to come in and take a stand. I don't see any way, like... The reason that we see the NCAA kind of get scared to take a stand is when there is a chance that they could get sued because of some sort of stupid waiver or whatever. I don't see a world in which Brendan Sorsby is not allowed to come back to college football and Brendan Sorsby has a case to sue the NCAA for that. I don't see a world in where that is a possibility. So in that case, yeah, don't let him come back. And I don't care about the supplemental draft. I don't care about if he has a chance to go to the NFL right now or not. Like, you got to stand by your rules.
Yeah.
And you got to put your foot down. You got to draw a line in the sand. And if somebody crosses it, they need to be punished.
I think, too, lost in all this is, like, let's not forget that Sorsby's also facing a lawsuit from Cincinnati for a breach of contract, for leaving Cincinnati despite having signed the contract. And there's still that looming over to Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah.
And so he's in all kinds of, with the gambling, with this potential lawsuit for him leaving his contract early and going over to Texas Tech, and the reported million that is supposed to be paid back to Cincinnati for leaving.
Well, and it's all a mess.
It's a mess.
Because the rumor was, okay, who leaked this story? Oh, Cincinnati must have leaked it because, they're suing him for that $1 million.
Yeah.
But now it sounds like they're being investigated too because they might have known about this and just let it slide. So who knows what's going to happen? I think that's all a mess too. And these players signing deals and then backing out of them. I do think he deserves to get sued by Cincinnati. I do think, when you put your name on a piece of paper, signed in ink, you got to be held to it. And if you're going to back out of that deal, fine, but pay up.
It's been a messy season for Brendan Sorsby. I think obviously we hope that he's able to go get the help that he needs.
Yeah.
Right from going into the addiction center, but
sure.
Man, it's been a really, really messy offseason for Brendan Sorsby from leaving Cincinnati to getting facing that lawsuit of having to pay back the money that you owe the school, and then now with all this, it's been a messy season for Brendan Sorsby, offseason for Brendan Sorsby. But as far as it goes for Texas Tech, I think the next quarterback in line will be Will Hammond, and we saw Will Hammond, beat Utah up here at Rice Eccles Stadium when Texas Tech and Utah played this past season. He subbed in for Baron Morton when Morton went down. But he's coming off an ACL tear, so he may or may not be ready.
And he was not that good outside of the Utah game.
Yeah.
He was not. He played against Kansas. He completed 7 of 16 passes for 42 yards. At Arizona State, he was 22 of 37 for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Also threw an interception against Kansas, but no touchdown. Against Oklahoma State, 9 of 15 for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, this is not a quarterback that, say this was before the transfer portal was open. This is not a quarterback that Texas Tech would feel comfortable with, right? Hence why they went out and got Brendan Sorsby, who was supposed to be the biggest fish in the pond as far as quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Yeah. Now they don't have anything. The rest of their quarterback room, I've never even heard of any of these guys. Mitch Griffiths, Lloyd Jones III, Holden Phillips.
Holden Phillips is going to be a stud, man.
That is kind of a college name, right?
Going to be a star.
That is the penultimate, college football name.
Well, now instead of, taking a step forward from where you were at quarterback last season, upgrading essentially from Baron Morton to Brendan Sorsby, now it seems like you're really downgrading, going from Baron Morton to if it's Will Hammond or one of those other guys, again, depending on Will Hammond where he is as far as his injury goes. So that, it is, I think, safe to say that now you can expect Texas Tech to probably take a step back a bit from where they were this past season, and to not be as, I guess, looked at as the perennial Big 12 winner and the team that's going to win the Big 12 and the favorite to win the Big 12. And now you take a step back, and so that opens up the door for other teams in the Big 12 to potentially try to make their stamp on the conference and potentially go through it and win. And I think immediately everybody's looking at BYU.
Oh, yeah. This is great news for BYU.
Everybody's looking at BYU as far as the talent that they returned from last season. Getting LJ Martin back is absolutely phenomenal. You get another season and a true spring camp and a true offseason for Bear Bachmeier. Him coming in after the spring portal or during the spring portal last season. And then you have all those players returning on defense, like in Isaiah Glasker. Plus, you bring in Kedu Luave, who is one of the better linebackers in the transfer portal this past offseason. You bring him in. There is a lot to be excited about, despite losing Jay Hill and despite losing some talent, or as far as coaching goes, so losing some coaching on the defensive side of the ball for BYU. There's still a lot of promise there for BYU, and I think with how much you return, immediately your mind goes to, hey, BYU can take advantage of this situation.
Well, and where the Big 12 is right now, they're not one of the top 2 conferences, right? So it's always going to be a war of attrition every single year. Which team returns the most talent? I'm gonna bet on them.
Absolutely.
See what I did there?
Yes.
To win the conference. Texas Tech loses their starting quarterback. Utah loses their head coach. Houston That's a fake record. I don't count them as towards the top of the Big 12. They had a weak schedule.
I disagree.
Arizona returns their quarterback. They're going to be good. Arizona State lost their quarterback. Iowa State lost their entire roster and their head coach. Kansas State stinks. TCU stinks. Cincinnati stinks. This is great news for the Cougars.
This is phenomenal news for the Cougars.
You don't
for
think
both
you
Cougars?
You think Houston's going to be
I think people
a
need
real
I
threat?
think people need to take the Houston Cougars more serious, man.
I'll believe what I see.
Willie Fritz has shown that he can coach, man, and you get Connor Weigman back. You also you picked up some interesting players in the transfer portal.
But you're
like
not going to sit here
Henderson.
and say that they're on the same level as BYU right now.
If I had to rank them, I'd say BYU is obviously the first.
Okay.
Then I'd probably go Houston second, and I think I'd put Arizona third.
I'd still pick Utah over Houston.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely.
Even with Kyle Whittingham gone, even with Jason Beck gone, even with how many... obviously, there's a lot more questions about Utah and where
Houston's
they are.
Houston's a fine football team. I think they're always going to be in the middle of the pack. I think the two best teams in the Big 12 right now are probably BYU and Arizona. I think that is your top tier in the Big 12. You get in the next tier, that's when you can talk about Utah. And maybe Arizona State just because Dillingham's a good coach. And maybe you can put Houston there too. But I would pick, I think BYU and Arizona are the two teams to beat in the Big 12 next year.
Utah, I still have so many questions about before we can get to that level.
It's understandable.
To that point.
They lost a lot, man.
They lost a lot more than BYU did.
Yeah.
You had,
But we can agree that BYU is the by far number one favorite.
I think there's no contention there. I think BYU is by far the favorite, and I think BYU will end up taking big advantage of this Baron Morton their Brendan Sorsby situation and the Texas Tech situation. I think BYU will take the most advantage out of it. Utah, I think there's still a lot of questions for me because not only did you lose Kyle Whittingham, not only did you lose Jason Beck, but you also lost some bona fide starters on that defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Like Smith Snowden, like Teo Johnson, like John Henry Daly, and those are big shoes to fill. Those are guys who had good to great seasons, and those are going to be some big shoes to fill. And so I do have a lot more questions about Utah. I do have questions about Arizona. But I think Houston, I think you know what you're getting with the Cougars, and I think you know what you're getting with Connor Weigman at quarterback, and you know what you're getting from that offense, you know what you're getting from that defense, and they are the number 2 team who can take advantage of this Texas Tech situation.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, the point is who loses the most in the offseason and who can retain the most talent, who can hold on to their guys and keep them from going to the Big Ten or the SEC.
Yeah.
And right
Houston's
now, that's
right there.
That's Houston. So.
Houston's right there. They lost very, very little this offseason, and BYU, you can say the same thing about BYU. You had guys like Jack Kelly go and graduate. You had guys like Chase Roberts who've moved on, but they've, for the most part, have kept a large core of that roster intact.
Holding on to Satuala
is massive.
And Bear Bachmeier.
Massive.
Huge.
Can't be understated. I
can't even imagine how many teams were trying to hit up Bear Bachmeier because he's a true specimen, right?
Yeah.
He's huge. He's got an arm. That's what every single school wants at quarterback. That's what the pros want. He's going to be fun to watch next year, man. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And you hear from Kalani Sitake all the time, man. It's not just a Jay Hill defense; it's a BYU defense, and we'll see how Caleb Papinga does now as the defensive coordinator. But I mean, it's a conversation we've had before, Christian. You still have Kalani Sitake. You still have Gary Anderson, who's still a part of that program, and Kalani Sitake made it known right after the Jay Hill departure, and with a couple of some of the spring football availabilities, it's a BYU defense. It's not just Jay Hill's defense.
Yeah,
and that I think gives a lot of hope to BYU fans, and that defense can still be at that same level, or even at a similar level to where they were last season, because that was a massive part of their success last year.
I agree.
All right, we got to take a break. On the other side, let's jump into technical fouls. Talk about some of the sillier, funnier storylines of the week. That's on the other side. Don't go anywhere. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy hitting back and forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7 day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
That's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
you'll get hit with a bat.
'Cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles, Christian Esparza, walking you through your Saturday morning as we recap the week in sports, and we'll stay with the quarterback conversation, right? And we'll stay with Brendan Sorsby as part of our technical fouls. But this one specifically goes towards an article that was posted about the Brendan Sorsby situation. Christian, what do you got for us?
Oh, dude, this is really tone deaf by CBS Sports.
It is.
It had to have been on purpose, right? But CBS Sports, I don't even know who wrote this article, okay? But there was an article talking about it, about Brendan Sorsby leaving the school to go to rehab, essentially, for his gambling addiction and how it's impacting Texas Tech. And gambling is the big evil villain of this story.
Yes.
Then the very last paragraph of this story. Texas Tech was an overwhelming favorite to repeat as Big 12 champions after acquiring Sorsby this offseason, but has now moved to even money at plus 100 via FanDuel Sportsbook after Monday's news. Yeah. The Red Raiders' projected win total has also decreased, going from 11.5 at opening to 10.5 victories, and Sorsby's no longer on FanDuel's Heisman Trophy odds list after opening at plus 2,500, just outside the top 10. So it's so funny.
A player.
So ironic that they're talking about, this player's career, this college quarterback's career was ruined.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't stop gambling. And let's throw all these gambling odds in our article talking about it.
A player enters rehab for a gambling addiction, and the second paragraph of this article discusses gambling odds for Texas Tech for Brendan Sorsby, and it doesn't make sense. It is very tone deaf, and I think it just tells you about.
It had to have been on purpose.
I think it's more just a look of where sports is right now.
Yeah. I mean, gambling is king. It literally controls everything that happens in sports. We can have a whole conversation about it.
Yeah.
It started this whole tanking thing in the NBA and how the Jazz were made out to be this big bad face of tanking when they're just one of 10 teams doing it. Yeah. And it's because of the gamblers.
You have ESPN, who has the ticker at the bottom with all their scores and all their previews, and they have the the over-unders or the odds of who's going to win. You have, I feel like everything and everywhere is getting sponsored now by betting books like FanDuel, like DraftKings, etc. And it's just all in your face, really, as you consume sports.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
It's bad. I hate it.
And now we have, the situation where this quarterback who was, supposed to help Texas Tech repeat, and he's now in rehab because of this gambling addiction. But it's hard, man, because it's just all up in your face everywhere you go and everywhere you look when it comes to sports.
That's all they care about.
But you're absolutely right, man.
And the worst part about it is it's an addictive behavior that they are capitalizing. They are, I guess,
they're capitalizing.
They're taking advantage of people with this addiction, and it's tough.
Very tone deaf from the article that was posted to have all the betting odds on a story about a player who is now going into rehab for a gambling addiction. That is a technical foul to CBS Sports. Technical foul on the Hawks, Magic, and the Rockets. We're going to jump into some NBA playoff talk here in just a moment, but we have to poke a little fun at the teams for historic losing.
These were all. Oh, they weren't all elimination games. It was the Pistons tied the series with the Magic, but the Rockets and the Hawks were eliminated. I do want to point out to you also, remember this season, Bam Adebayo had 83 points in a game.
Yes.
In a regular season game. In the playoffs, the Magic and the Rockets both couldn't even crack 80.
Wild.
79 points for the Magic, 78 points for the Rockets. And the Hawks, they scored 89, but they got whooped 140-89. One of the largest deficits ever in a playoff game. One of the largest deficits ever at halftime in a playoff game. That was absolutely brutal. The Magic had 45 minutes of real time between two of their baskets, 8:46 Eastern to 9:31 Eastern.
Was it 28 straight?
23 straight misses.
Straight.
Most by any playoff team this century for the Magic. And then the Rockets are just a mess. Going back to the whole Kevin Durant burner thing leaking, it's clear that took a toll on this team.
Haven't been the same.
And it's amazing how Kevin Durant keeps doing this to every single team that he goes to. Somebody thinks that he is going to be the piece that puts them over the top, and he goes in and just absolutely tears the organization apart from the inside.
Yeah.
This is a Houston Rockets team that lost in the first round last year. They were supposed to bring in Kevin Durant, and that was supposed to fix all of their problems. He came in, and they've been arguably worse.
I'll never forget the hype that KD had when he went to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Because James Harden followed him there, right? And they were building a quote-unquote super team.
Yep.
And the second he got hurt, it just completely fizzled away.
He's going to leave Houston this summer, and somebody's going to talk themselves into Kevin Durant. We're going to see the same story all over again. Whether it's Portland or whether it's, some other young team that's on the up and up who thinks that all they need is a scorer, just like Houston thought. Beware, Kevin Durant.
It's unfortunate for Houston, man. I thought that, they were last season, right before they made this move, they were close.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this KD move has now pushed them back.
It completely derailed this franchise's plans because they lose to the Lakers with no Luka Doncic and no Austin Reeves. I know Austin Reeves came back towards the end of the series, right? But this series never should have went 6 or 7 games. When a 41-year-old LeBron James is your best player and he's throwing lobs to his kid who was a 55th overall pick, and that's winning the series, this is a very, very bad Houston Rockets team. I can't stress that enough. This Lakers team that they lost to was really, really flawed, even with Luka and Austin Reeves. And they were both out, yet they were still able to beat the Rockets. I can't believe
it. Rockets bow out 4-2. Lakers hold off the comeback, and the Los Angeles Lakers move on. We're going to jump into some NBA playoff talk, as well as what's going on with the lottery reform. Christian, pull out your handbook, pull out your rule book, and let us know what's going on with this draft lottery reform. That's coming up on the other side here on the Saturday show. It is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This year, experience the NHL Playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
Welcome back to the Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles and Christian Esparza, thank you for making us a part of your Saturday morning. Let's jump into this lottery reform as well as some NBA playoff talk. Obviously, one of the biggest storylines that was here with this 2025-2026 NBA season was the tanking storyline, and it starts off with the Jazz and the Pacers taking that tanking related fine earlier in the season, and then from there it has been a major talking point inside the NBA, and it seems like there might now finally be some sort of a solution and some sort of proposal that Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, and everybody is putting forth. It's a new lottery system that is the 3-2-1 proposal. It is based off the name of the distribution of the lottery balls. The lottery balls will now include 16 teams, up from 14 of it previously was. The 10 teams that missed the postseason entirely, and the number 9 and number 10 seeds in both conferences, and the losers of the 7 and 8 play-in tournament game. So you're expanding the lottery and also changing up the odds. As far as the new odds go, there is this quote-unquote relegation zone where the top 3 teams, or I guess the worst 3 teams, will not have the best odds. They'll sit at a 5.4% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick, whereas the 4 through 10 teams sit at an 8.1. Christian.
Well, clearly Adam Silver doesn't listen to the Saturday show.
I am the Senate.
One of my biggest talking points when it came to whatever the NBA does to fix the lottery, quote unquote, fix the lottery, fix the tanking, whatever, was that I shouldn't need a rule book.
Yes.
To know how this works. I shouldn't, like, some random casual NBA fan on the street is going to tune into the lottery and see this and be like, what the heck is even going on? What is the point of all these rules? What is the point? Can somebody please explain this to me? And you're going to need to explain this every single year because it's so complicated. It's so stupid. And by the way, using the term relegation zone for the first 3 picks, that's a buzzword that doesn't even mean anything because they want so badly to make it like, you know, European soccer where there is a relegation league if you're not good enough.
Yeah.
But they're too scared to actually do that.
I take offense.
Because owners don't want to do that. Right. So all the soccer fans are like, what the heck do you mean relegation? That's ridiculous.
I take offense to the term relegation zone in this.
Yeah, so you've got all of this. Adam Silver saying that teams should hate to lose. And sure, I totally agree with that. In a fun and perfect world, yes, professional sports teams, every single year, their goal should be to win the championship, not lose out to increase odds. But guess what? That's not how it works. The world is not perfect, right? If it were a perfect world, you and I would be on the air every single day instead of just Saturdays, right?
Yeah.
You know, we can't always get what we want. I'm sorry, Adam. The bottom line is teams that are not good enough to win, they need to lose in order to get the better players at the top of the draft. That is how it works in American sports. And I think the NFL has a fine system. And sure, you get teams underachieving a little bit. But I wouldn't say that the NFL has a tanking problem by any means. If you look at problems in the NBA, I'd say tanking is more of a side effect of so many of the other issues, like stars refusing to go play in small markets.
Yeah.
And you look at like OKC and the flopping that you see every night with SGA and Chet Holmgren and stuff like that. Those are much bigger issues that the NBA is never going to address. Instead, they want to make things way more complicated than they need to be, just so Adam Silver can say that he's doing something as a coach.
Yeah, especially for teams that are losing games or are quote unquote tanking to try to get the best available talent, and now you're completely stripping that away with going down from 14%. Right, for the top 3 teams that we see in the current system that we have now versus a minus 8.6% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick now, with just sitting at the 5.4 because of the relegation zone and this daunting term that the commissioner is trying to use to scare teams away from being the bottom 3 teams.
I don't even want to talk about percentage because it all, like, the more math and the more rules that you bring up, like, you're losing me. You're losing me. You're losing the listeners. You're losing the fans. Basically, all you need to know is the 3 worst teams in the NBA don't have as good lottery odds as the 4th through 10th worst teams.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's what Adam Silver wants to incentivize. And a worse issue is now you look at the play-in teams, and you've got some of these teams that if you're a play-in team, you have I just said I'm not going to bring up percentages, so I won't, okay? You have a certain percentage if you're a play-in team. But guess what? If you're right there on the other side of not being a play-in team, if you are the 10th worst team instead of being a play-in team, you've got a much higher chance of you get an additional ping pong ball. You get higher chance in the lottery.
Yeah.
So why in the world would you ever want to be a play-in team if you have 3% higher odds just by losing a couple more games? So you're just changing who tanks. You're not changing tanking at all.
Right. It doesn't feel like it's ending tanking. It literally just changes it. And I guess where you're going to tank, because now teams can position themselves, in November, December, and then come the end of the season, try to win a couple of games and make sure that you're in that 4, 5, 6 slot rather than making sure you're in the 1, 2, 3 spots. And it just feels unnecessary.
No.
It feels unnecessary, and it feels honestly quite unfair to the teams who are actually in the need of those high draft picks, and the teams that are going to end up in the 1, 2, 3 spots, and they're not going to have the best chances of getting that number 1 overall pick.
I want to play a clip. I'm kind of surprising you with this one. Shams Charania was on Pat McAfee earlier this week, and it's funny because Shams, as ESPN's senior insider for the NBA, obviously he's just a talking piece for Adam Silver, essentially. He went because nobody listens to Adam Silver.
No.
Nobody takes him seriously when he tries to sell an idea because everybody knows his ideas are garbage. So this stuff comes out, and it's basically Shams's job to try to convince everybody that it's a good idea. So he went on Pat McAfee earlier this week. Not only did he do exactly that, try to carry water for Adam Silver, he also takes an unnecessary shot at the Utah Jazz. And we'll get into that afterwards, after we play this clip.
All right.
This is Adam Silver's crack at trying to basically de-incentivize losing. And the this is their version of relegating the bottom teams in the NBA. And so in all of American pro sport, once this is implemented May 28th in an owner's vote, they'll be the first league in American pro sports to penalize the bottom teams in the draft. It's not that you can't acquire players or can't build through the draft. It's just if you're openly trying to be at the bottom, or if you are at the bottom, you're going to be punished by it by losing lottery balls. So basically in this format, if you're a bottom 3 team, you will have 2 lottery balls. If you're 4 through 10, you actually have 3 lottery balls. So in a lot of ways, if you're 1 through 3, you're incentivized to win at least enough that you're not at the bottom. So you're going to be trying to win. And then if you're 4 to 10, your goal is to try to win so you don't get sent to the relegation zone. So this is the NBA. And I was told Adam Silver had a call a couple weeks back, and he told the owners, he was very forceful with the owners. I'm not going to lie, there was a couple F-bombs in there. And he told, whether it was owners, GMs, everyone, you should hate to lose. Losing should be uncomfortable. People are now taking it as a badge of honor. And so this is the NBA. They are trying to take the step to crack down on this. And a lot of people might look at this as a radical approach, as an overcorrection in a lot of ways of what's happened in Utah and other leagues. So this is something that's obviously going to have major impact, not only this year, but years to come. There are 2 elements to this, Pat, I do want to point out. This now means moving forward, you can't pick number 1 back-to-back years, and you can't have a top 5 pick in 3 consecutive years. So that means teams like the San Antonio Spurs right now with Wemby, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper wouldn't exist. A team like Oklahoma City back in the day with KD and all those guys wouldn't exist. The Rockets right now with the Men Thompson, Reed Shepherd, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr. wouldn't exist under this new policy. So this is the NBA trying to basically say F you to teams that are trying to lose.
Watch out, Alex. There were a couple F-bombs in the owner meeting. Adam Silver's really serious about this one, Alex.
Wow.
Shams doesn't even believe what he's saying.
No. And for him to use Utah as the example, again, it's what we've been talking about for the last couple of months. Why is Utah all of a sudden the poster child for all this?
Because it's the Utah Jazz, and I hate that this is the way it is. I don't know if many Jazz fans realize this, but the Jazz are hated by everybody in the NBA, and I don't know why. I don't understand it. I couldn't tell you. And maybe it's because they were kind of villains in the Stockton and Malone days. Maybe it's because they're a small market team. Maybe it's because of everybody's preconceived bias about the state of Utah. I don't know what it is, but people hate the Jazz, and I can't stand it. One thing that really bugged me, there's this tweet going around, right? And Shams kind of talked about a similar thing, right? If the NBA's new anti-tanking proposal existed a few years ago, none of these young cores would have been possible because of you can't pick number 1 back-to-back years and you can't be in the top 5, however, whatever, right? So it's talking about some of these young cores that right, the Spurs were able to build because they took Wemby, Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper, top 5 in 3 consecutive years. The Rockets, Jabari Smith, Jalen Green, Amen Thompson, Reed Shepherd. The Cavs with Mobley, Garland, and Okoro. But the one I want to specifically mention, the Pistons with Cade Cunningham, Ivy, Sar Thompson, and Holland.
Yeah.
That's 4 drafts that the Pistons picked top 5. 4 drafts in
because they were
5 years. Because they were tanking.
Because they were tanking.
The Jazz had 1 top 5 pick.
Exactly.
We'll see what happens in the lottery this month. They might not even have another top 5 pick. It could be 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah.
We will see.
Yeah.
The Jazz have been out of the playoffs
They've never moved
for
up.
4 years.
They've never moved up.
The Jazz have been out of the playoffs for 4 years. I would say they have only, quote unquote, tanked for 2 of those years. This year and last year. Last year they end up with the worst record in the NBA. This year they were the 4th worst record. The 2 years previously, they were kind of a half-in, half-out tank. Yet somehow everybody wants to talk about what the Utah Jazz are doing as sacrilege and so bad for the NBA. And it's the worst thing to ever happen because heaven forbid they play Lauri Markkanen or Jaren Jackson Jr. for 3/4 of a game and then pulling them out. And again, to tie it into an earlier conversation, this just all goes back to the gamblers. Who controls the NBA? It's the media's rights deal, right? And where does ESPN get all that money? The gambling companies. So it's kind of in a roundabout way, that's why everybody was so mad at the Utah Jazz for doing what they did with Lowry and Jaren Jackson Jr. is because at the end of the day, it's the gamblers losing out on money because they see Lauri Markkanen's playing, they bet the over, and he ends up only playing 3/4, so he doesn't hit his over, and people are grumpy about it.
Yeah.
Nobody cares when the Spurs do it. Nobody cares when the Pistons did it. I mean, the Pistons were a laughingstock for having the worst losing streak in NBA history. Nobody said that was, nobody's taking shots at, look at what the Detroit Pistons are doing. That's so bad for the league. People sat and pointed and laughed because they were bad. But when the Jazz are bad, oh my goodness.
It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing that could possibly happen in the NBA. I don't think the 3-2-1, I don't think it actually stops tanking. Because in a way, yes, like it is less advantageous for you to have one of the worst records in the NBA, right? And I think at the end of the season, right, teams are going to do everything they possibly can to end up not being in the bottom 3 spots.
Yeah, don't you dare call it the relegation zone.
No, I'm not going to call it the relegation zone. The bottom 3 spots. The teams are going to win. Teams are going to want to win and are going to do their best to get out of that zone. But if you're a fringe playing team, if you're a fringe playoff team, why would you try to win games at the end of the season to make it into the playing game and end up with a 5.4% chance of winning the lottery, where you can end up in the 10th, 9th spot and have an 8.1?
Right, lose a couple more games and you boost your lottery odds.
You're gonna end up missing the play-in. Like, oh man, we didn't make it.
Yeah, you think the Heat would have cared this year if they had higher lottery odds instead of being in the play-in?
Not.
You
Absolutely
think
not.
The Hornets would?
Absolutely not.
No,
You miss your teams are gonna. You're gonna end up stopping the tanking of the worst of the worst in the NBA, right? The top 3 teams, and people are gonna try to get out of there. But the teams who are like on the fringe of being in the play-in, they're gonna end up tanking. So you're just moving who and where the tanking comes from.
And that's backwards to me, anyways, because you would think the teams that are in conversation to be playoff teams,
they're good enough to get in the play-in.
Right. Theoretically, they are better than the teams at the bottom of the NBA. So why would you care if the bottom teams in the NBA are not winning? Why would you care if the 3 worst teams in the league are the 3 worst teams in the league? Yeah. You should care if the 10th, 11th, 12th worst teams in the league, right there literally in the middle, you should care if they're not taking steps to become better. So that's what I don't get. I don't know who Adam Silver expects the play-in tournament to be for now. In my mind, it's like, okay, are you expecting teams like the Jazz or the Wizards to be the play-in teams next year? And I can sit here right now and say that I think the Jazz are going to be better than a play-in team. I think they're going to be probably 5 or 6 seed in the West, and that's not play-in range, right? So what is the point of the play-in now if it's just this middle ground where teams aren't going to want to be?
Right.
And That doesn't make any sense to me. Who's that supposed to be for? What team benefits from being in that play-in spot?
I think you're going to be looking next season, and once this reform happens, you look at the standings now, right? You have the Clippers in 9, the Golden State Warriors in 10, and you have the Pelicans and the Mavericks just sitting outside of that. And you have a team like the Pelicans who could probably really benefit from a top 5 pick. Obviously, they don't have their pick, but I'm just saying in the hypothetical, right? The Pelicans who can benefit a lot from a top 5 pick, but you're going to have the Clippers who don't necessarily need that. They have Kawhi Leonard, they have a good team, and they're going to end up tanking, and they're going to end up falling out. The Pelicans are somehow going to end up sneaking into the play-in game, and they're going to miss their chance on a good draft pick.
Yeah,
because the Clippers decided that they don't want to be in the play-in.
Yeah, man, it doesn't make any sense to me. And so I think I saw that this is going to basically be in effect. It's going to be reevaluated in 2027. I think is
yes,
what I saw.
Yes, it's going to be reevaluated eventually because the CBA expires in 2029.
Oh, 2029
is when the CBA
so they're going to give
expires.
us 3 years.
Probably.
Okay.
And I think once the CBA expires, there's going to be more added onto this anti-tanking / lottery reform that we're gonna end up seeing.
I will personally apologize to Adam Silver if this cures tanking.
Emperor Palpatine does not need an apology.
I am the Senate.
I'd be surprised if Adam Silver still has a job in 3 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because this is making the NBA seem worse in a worse spot than it already is.
Yes.
Yes.
I will remind everybody. I will remind all of our listeners. I will remind Adam Silver if you're listening. The point of the draft
the Senate.
is to give bad teams an opportunity to be better. It does not make sense for the worst teams to not be picking at the highest part of the draft.
Right.
It does not make sense to give these other teams higher lottery odds than the worst teams. I don't know. Tanking has always been a thing in the NBA.
This seems like a really, really quick, fast track to essentially, quote unquote, killing the small markets.
Well, yeah. Because imagine if the Jazz didn't get Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
Imagine if they lose in the lottery and they drop to 8 this year and they're not able to get another franchise player. Then you are really, really hoping that Lauri Markkanen and Tripp on their own can do something for you. And that's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you need the draft to get better. You need it as a small market team.
There's no free agent.
You're not
There's no free
get free
agency.
agents.
Yeah.
And I guess the Jazz front office has been really good at making trades, but that's TBD. I mean, we really haven't seen the extent of what Jaren Jackson Jr. can do. So I totally agree with you. If there is no draft, the small market teams are ruined.
We'll see what happens, man. And I think, I already think that in the current form and the current way that the lottery is, the team with the worst record being able to fall all the way to 5th, as we saw, last year with the Jazz, I think that's already wild. Now the team with the worst record can fall all the way down to 12th.
That's ridiculous.
You're telling me that the worst team in the NBA is going to be picking at the 10, 11, 12 spot in the NBA draft?
Yeah.
There's in a weaker draft, that's going to be detrimental to franchises. Obviously, this draft's a little bit different, and it's not going to apply to this draft, but I mean, when you have a draft like the one that you have coming up here in a couple of months, you can probably find a decent player at, down in the 8, 9, 10 spots. But in a weaker drafts that we've seen, in the past, you're not going to get anything at the 8, 9, 10 spots.
Imagine the draft.
There's no franchise-changing players. There's no franchise-changing stars in the 8, 9, 10 spots in some drafts.
Imagine the Jazz having the worst record in the NBA, and all they get to show for it was Noah Essingwe.
Who?
Noah Essingwe. That's the dude who the Bulls drafted. Remember, he was posterized in Summer League, and he was turned into a meme. And that's the last that anybody's ever seen. He was the 12th pick in last year's draft. Now, admittedly, the Trailblazers drafted Cedric Coward, who has been really good at number 11, and the Pelicans drafted Derek Queen at 13, who was really good. But again, that's no Ace Bailey.
Yeah, that's not. There's not a franchise changing player.
No.
And I don't know, man. It just doesn't see. It's just wild to me already that the worst teams could fall to 5 in the current model, and now you're essentially allowing them to free fall down to all the way to a potential 12 in this new system.
NBA
so you
lottery
really
tomorrow.
You really are screwing the worst teams in the NBA.
Yes. We'll see.
May 10th, man.
Week from tomorrow.
It's crazy.
Big day. It's weird that it's on a Sunday.
It is weird that it's on a Sunday. But we'll be there. We'll be watching, and everybody can put out the good vibes now, man.
Yeah.
The Jazz are moving up. Shout out JJJ Jazz Forge in the YouTube comments. Jazz getting their guys just in time before they're relegated to the relegation zone. Couldn't agree more.
Stop saying relegation zone. This is not the EPL.
It is not. No, it's not. But in the sense, though, I do agree with this comment because it is great that the Jazz are now moving on from this quote-unquote rebuild at the perfect time.
That is a great point, yeah. And I do love, again, we have not even mentioned that this show. Like, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday. Man, the playoffs suck this year. But it's a different feeling watching the playoffs. He said stress-free is the terms he used. And I said, well, get ready because next year is not going to be stress-free.
I agree. Next year, the Jazz will be pushing.
Silver zone instead of relegation zone. I like that one.
Silver zone, nice.
That's funny.
Hey, we got to take a break. On the other side, let's talk NHL playoffs. Let's talk NBA playoffs. That and more coming up on 5 minutes of here on 97 or on the Saturday show, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's room of choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
I drive my bus in a busy city. That's why road safety is so important to me. I know that I must slow down and be extra careful when I make a wide turn. Buses need more room than cars. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're driving, remember to give buses plenty of time and space to finish turning before driving ahead. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
It is the Saturday show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Napoles and Christian Esparza here with you on a Saturday morning. Let's jump into 5 minutes of, and we'll hit both the NHL and the NBA playoffs. Let's start in the NBA. Christian, are you still on the Rudy Gobert train?
Oh,
I've
dude.
seen a lot of mixed reactions from people, from you Jazz fans and people in the state of Utah about whether or not they're happy for Rudy moving on and taking down the Nuggets, and then there's some that are not on the Rudy train, and they're very anti-Rudy Gobert.
This might take up the whole segment, but that does remind me of a question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Has it got to the point where Rudy Gobert is going to be remembered more as a Timberwolf than as a Jazzman?
Oh, that's a great question. That is a really, really good question. I think, and this is probably some bias here being in the state of Utah and having the Jazz right across the street from us, but I think I'm always going to remember as Rudy Gobert as a Jazzman.
Yeah, I disagree. We'll see what the Timberwolves do this year. I think it banks on what happens if they go to another conference finals, even if they don't go to the NBA finals.
Yeah.
But you got to remember his reputation here in Utah. Like all people knew him for was getting turned around by Luka in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You remember the one clip, I can think of it right now, where Luka turns him around in the playoffs, and it went super viral, and everybody was just clowning on Rudy, saying how overrated he was, and we knew that he wasn't. But that was, again, going back to a previous conversation, everybody in the NBA hates Utah, and they just want to clown on whoever's in Utah.
Yes, and I feel like now that he's with the Timberwolves and he's doing what he's doing with the Timberwolves, right, and the performances that he's had on Nikola Jokic
yes,
during this playoff run, like people are coming around a lot more on Rudy Gobert.
And he was doing that same stuff in Utah, and nobody cared.
Wild to see.
Yeah.
Wild.
So I am glad that Rudy Gobert is enjoying success. It is cool to see him, shut down Jokic, and the Timberwolves moving on in that series after losing Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo and Ayo Dosunmu, who was out their most recent game. And you've got guys like Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert stepping up. That is cool to see. I like the Timberwolves, man. They're a really fun story. I personally hope they give it to the Spurs. I get this thing where I get really bugged when everybody talks about something, hypes something up too much. And that's where I'm at with the Spurs. Yes, I get it. I get the generational talent that Wemby is. I get it. But I'm not ready to sit here and crown them as the number 2 team in the West.
I do think that'll be a really, really great matchup. And I think that if the Timberwolves can get healthy ASAP.
The problem is they won't.
The problem is that they won't.
They're not going to have Anthony Edwards until at least game 3 or 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to bury them early. If they were fully healthy, I honestly, right now, I would take a fully healthy Timberwolves over a fully healthy Spurs. So this kind of feels like it's going to go as a what if. But, man, Ant has been so much fun to watch in the playoffs. And when he hurt his knee, dude, that really sucked.
And to be honest, man, once Ant went down, I wrote off the Timberwolves.
It did feel like the Nuggets were going to come back.
I thought that was it for Minnesota, and I thought that Nikola Jokic being Nikola Jokic, and that Nuggets team being what they have been the last couple of seasons with no Ant, and specifically too, man, no Dante DiVincenzo. I thought for sure the Nuggets were going to come back.
Yeah.
But massive credit to the Timberwolves and for what they've been able to do. They've been fun and they've been impressive, and I think that they've surprised quite a bit of people around the NBA.
Do the Lakers win a single game against the Thunder?
Oh, no.
You don't think so?
No. Maybe one.
Maybe one.
I'm going 4-1 Thunder.
4-1. Pistons Magic. Who takes that? Series tied 3-3.
Game 7 coming up for the Pistons. I think the Pistons will figure it out. Pistons figure it out. They move on. And they will take on the Cleveland Cavaliers in the next round.
You're going to take Cleveland.
Taking Cleveland in that Game 7 as well.
And the Pistons? You said you're taking the Pistons?
Yeah,
okay.
Pistons.
I agree on Pistons. I'm going to take the Raptors over the Cavs.
I will say it was super fun to watch Toronto take it in overtime to force Game 7.
Yeah, that's a fun team.
I thought, the Cavaliers were going to come in and close out the series and move on. But massive credit to the Toronto Raptors, who I'd written off, and I think a lot of people around the NBA had written off. But they're able to pull it off in overtime, force Game 7, and now you have a phenomenal matchup set for Game 7. But I do think that the Cavaliers somehow figure it out, and they move on, and they'll take on the Pistons.
And some breaking news for tonight's Game 7. Those are both tomorrow. Tonight's Game 7 between the Celtics and the 76ers. Chris Haynes tweeting that Boston Celtics star Jason Tatum has been downgraded to questionable for Game 7 tonight as he deals with knee stiffness. Of course, recovering from his Achilles tear just a season ago in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Really crazy that he's back and playing already. And it's not surprising to me that he's dealing with an injury because it's not just your Achilles that you have to worry about. It's your entire body getting back into game shape, and how do your other muscles in your legs kind of respond to, that other weakness right there. So let's say Tatum doesn't play. Do you think the 76ers take it?
I don't.
Do you think the Celtics win game 7?
I think Celtics will take Game 7.
Even with no Tatum.
I do want to say, though, massive credit to Philadelphia for, being down 3-1 and coming back and forcing that Game 7. I think down 3-1, I again, had definitely written off the 76ers, and I thought that the Celtics were gonna move on fine. But then the 76ers win Game 5, and then they win Game 6 on Thursday, and then tonight they're setting up for Game 7, which massive credit to them. I thought it was over for Philadelphia being down 3-1, but here they are in Game 7 with a chance to move on.
I think the Celtics win too. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think Brown can get you enough.
Brown is good enough to win a single game on his own, much less a series. I mean, even if Tatum was out this whole series, I think I'd feel comfortable taking the Celtics still.
Yeah.
Brown is a very good player.
He is very good, and I thought that he should have had more shots for MVP this season, considering what the Celtics team lost and considering how the Celtics team was able to kind of keep it going even without Tatum.
Yeah,
and be in the spot that they're at. They're the number 2 seed in the East, and that's massive credit to Brend and what he had been able to accomplish in the regular season with the Boston Celtics this season. But now here they are in Game 7, again after being up 3-1. But I don't see the 76ers going into Boston and taking that.
Nah.
Give me the Celtics. And the Celtics-Knicks in the next round is going to be super fun. The Knicks absolutely blowing out the Hawks. We talked about it a little bit earlier. This is kind of where I've had it going into the NBA playoffs this year, with how it's shaking up. I thought OKC was going to move on perfectly fine. The Lakers one kind of took me by surprise.
Yeah,
but that's pretty much it. And I guess Toronto. If Toronto's able to win Game 7 and move on, that would probably be the biggest surprise for me.
And Magic being forced in a Game 7 with the number 1 seed, I think, is a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, but I didn't believe the Pistons.
No, I guess, but it's still an 8-1.
I didn't believe the Pistons. I thought that their youngness would eventually rear its head, and I thought it has for a lot of this series.
Tobias Harris.
Yeah.
Stinks.
Moving on to the NHL playoffs. The Avalanche, of course, win that series 4-1 against the Kings. The Stars and the Wild, the Minnesota Wild, man, close out the series. They take it 4-2 against the Stars. They end up winning that game 5-2, and I thought that was such a phenomenal series.
Yeah.
I thought that had the potential to go all the way to 7. Unpredictable, but the Wild end up taking it in Game 6, and now they move on and take on the Avalanche.
And how about Quinn Hughes' shot off of the defenseman's ankle? That was crazy.
Yeah. That move for Quinn Hughes, massive.
Yeah, they traded for him just ahead of the trade deadline, and that's what you like to see, man. Some of these organizations taking big swings. They already had they gave one of their big stars the highest paying contract in NHL history in the preseason, right? And then they still feel like that's not good enough. They go out and get one of the best defensemen in the entire NHL in Quinn Hughes, and clearly that made them a better team. We'll see if they push Colorado at all. I don't know.
I think with the way that they played against the Stars, there's potential there.
Yeah, and with the wackiness of the NHL, I don't feel comfortable saying that like anybody's untouchable, you know?
You know what's crazy too? I think with this matchup, with the Avalanche and the Wild going head-to-head here in the second round, that is going to be a much harder and much tougher matchup, in my opinion, than whoever wins out of the Golden Knights and the Ducks.
Oh, I agree 1,000%. The Ducks are on the similar. I talked about it earlier. They are on the same kind of timeline as the Mammoth, right? And it's funny. I bring up the Ducks and some other teams. You can think of like the Islanders to an extent, but they're Eastern, right? But like San Jose and some of these other Western teams that have been picking near the Mammoth in the last few drafts, and they've all got their young talent, and everybody's ready to start taking the next step forward. And one thing I didn't bring up earlier, I think this playoff series the Mammoth had against the Knights really establishes a true rivalry, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
With the Golden Knights.
Especially with the way the series started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the regionality and all of that. But then you look at like some of these other young teams like the Ducks and like the Sharks in particular. I think those are some other teams that are going to be kind of hate watches for Mammoth fans, because it's like those
competing.
Who's going to see the most success the quickest, I guess, out of these teams exiting their rebuild and taking the next step? Well, so I hope the Ducks lose in 4.
So far, it's the Ducks, man.
I hope the Ducks lose in 4.
Taking down Edmonton is massive for them. They win that series 4-2, and then you have the Oilers, who last season were in the Stanley Cup final. They lose to the Panthers, and now this season booted in the first round. 2
years. That's how much longer Connor McDavid has left on his contract.
Yeah.
2 years.
Did you see his comments after the loss?
Yeah.
We're an average team.
He wants out so bad.
Ooh.
2 years, and he's going to be in Utah.
It's bold.
Calling it out.
That's a bold statement.
2 years.
Bold statement. We have our first second-round matchup that starts up today. It is the Hurricanes taking on the Flyers over in the Eastern Conference. That game comes up tonight at 6 p.m. Mountain. The Hurricanes and Flyers. The Flyers move on 4-2 after taking down the Penguins. The Hurricanes got a sweep of the Senators, and now they move on to that matchup. The Sabres still waiting for their opponent in the next round. There is a Game 7 that was forced in the NHL, and it is the Lightning and the Canadiens going toe-to-toe for a Game 7 that's set tomorrow at 4
I can't
p.m.
believe Buffalo's the number 1 seed. After not making the playoffs for like 15, 16 straight years, and then they come in, they're the number 1 seed.
That's what happens when you trade for Josh Doan, man.
I know. Shout out Josh Doan.
Puts you over the top.
Yeah.
Josh Doan, he's been I joke, but he's been a fun story for the Sabres.
He really has, and he's clearly helped a ton. And you know what?
He's become a fan favorite, man. Everything that I've seen online about Josh Doan is
love him.
They love him. They love him.
And he deserves it.
Absolutely. They take down the Bruins 4-1 to close out that series. Boston, you know what, man? What was the overtime game? I'm going to bring in Sean because Sean's our local hockey guy. That overtime game was super fun, and the goaltender for the goalie for the Bruins was phenomenal.
Yeah, Swayman.
Yeah, Swayman was awesome.
I call him Save Man, but it's just my own little nickname. But yeah, and then Pasternak with the filthy finish to win that game.
Yes,
force the Game 6 and then laid the biggest egg last night.
Dude, the Boston had 21 penalty minutes in
Really?
Game 6. Buffalo only had 2.
Wow.
And it was the most
That's
inconsequential 2 ever.
Really?
Bruins, just getting called for some of the weakest things. I mean, I'm biased. I get it, but
that's funny.
It was terrible. Terrible reffing last night. Not why they lost, though.
Another overtime game, too, in that Game 6 for the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadiens end up winning that one 1-0 to go back to Tampa for Game 7. That I'll be very interested in watching. Now that the Mammoth are out, Christian, are you still going to be tuning into the NHL playoffs? Are you still going to be glued in as you have been the last couple of weeks?
Totally. I think the Stanley
so
Cup playoffs are so much fun, even
Yeah.
if you don't have a horse in the race, And I even last year to an extent, but mostly the year before when it was first announced that the Coyotes were going to move to Utah, everybody started watching because it was right about the time that the playoffs were starting, right?
Yes.
So everybody kind of caught the playoff bug and was watching that year's playoffs. So yeah, I think there's a ton of great storylines like the Avalanche and the Wild. I think that's going to be a great series. We'll see if the Flyers can push Carolina a little bit. Carolina looked really, really good against the Senators, but the Flyers making the big move for Zegras. We'll see if that can get them to the conference finals. But I don't know, man. I think right now, looking at the bracket, I think the champion's going to come out of the West, whether that's the Avalanche, Wild, or Knights.
I think I would agree, and I think I have the Avalanche picked right now, but we'll see. I think I'll be more interested in the NHL playoffs right now than I am in the NBA, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that there's a couple series, in the NBA that could potentially change that for me, like a Timberwolves Spurs. But right now, I think I'm more in tune, and I think I'm more intrigued by the Stanley Cup playoffs than I am the NBA playoffs, which is a first for me.
Yeah.
I've always been more NBA, and I've always loved the NBA playoffs and the intensity that it brings, and especially Game 7s, man. There's nothing better than Game 7s, but this year I've been more intrigued by the NHL.
And I'm just so upset with Adam Silver right now. I'm just not going to pay any mind to his product.
Right.
Emperor
Palpatine.
Yeah.
All right, we got to take a break. We'll wrap things up on the other side here on the Saturday show. It is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do-or-die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the Chase for the Cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.
¿Quieres mejor internet? Cox Internet de 300 megas tiene las velocidades rápidas y confiables que buscas. Perfecto para streaming y gaming y trabajar desde casa. Todo por solo $45 al mes cuando agregas Cox Mobile. Incluye equipo de Wi-Fi y garantía de precio de 2 años en tu plan. No esperes. Cámbiate hoy a Cox. Requiere Cox Mobile Gig Unlimited. Garantía de precio no incluye impuestos y cargos. Velocidad de datos móviles se reduce después de 20 gigas al mes.
Welcome back. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Final segment of the day. Christian, JJ Redick made some interesting comments that have re-sparked the MJ versus LeBron debate.
Okay.
JJ Redick said that LeBron James has had the greatest career of any NBA player after eliminating the Houston Rockets. And that, of course, led to everybody online the other night talking, reigniting MJ versus LeBron. Has he had the greatest career of any NBA player ever, LeBron James?
Well, he has the most points scored ever. And I think that is a very convincing argument. So what do you value more, like total points scored or total rings? Because there are several other players who have more rings than LeBron. Or you can look at the finals percentage, right? How many of his NBA finals that he went to did he win? I think that's always going to hang over his head. So if you want, 100%, 6 for 6, then you go Jordan. If you want most rings ever, you go Bill Russell, right? But if you want most total points scored, and you take LeBron, honestly, that's not an argument that I would really argue with. I think you could take any side on that.
Yeah.
I whatever.
I think I agree for the most part, right? I agree that you can make an argument for either side of being the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But there's no denying that LeBron James, growing up watching LeBron James and then having LeBron James in the NBA for as long as that I've been alive, and watching his career and watching where he is now, and then watching him single-handedly lead the Lakers into beating the Rockets. There's no denying that he has one of the greatest careers ever.
Oh yeah, it's either him or Michael.
Yeah,
I don't see how you can insert any other name in the conversation.
I can make an argument for either way, and sometimes and there is some recency bias there for me too. But sometimes I'll watch LeBron and what he's doing now and what he's doing today, and I'll be like, oh yeah, LeBron's the best of all time. But then I'll remember, you know what, Jordan's the greatest of all time.
What's crazy?
It swings back and forth for me every once in a while.
This is LeBron's 9th season with the Lakers.
His longest tenured team. LeBron
James has been a Laker for more time than he was a Cavalier or a Heatle.
A Heatle. I don't know if that's what you call him.
Well, that's a little deceptive, I guess, because he did 7 years with the Cavs and then 4.
So you counting
so
his
total time,
or,
I guess.
Or consecutive, yeah.
But consecutive, yeah. 9 years already. Can you believe that?
Time flies, man. It feels like just the other day we were watching the announcement of LeBron being announced to the Los Angeles Lakers. Now here we are with him.
Yeah, I remember where I was. Do you remember where you were?
On the verge of retirement. I don't think I do. I might have been in school.
It was in the summertime.
Oh, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Where were you?
I was in Minnesota at my grandma's cabin by the lake.
There you go. Today's schedule looks like this. Real Salt Lake taking on the Portland Timbers. Pregame starts up at 1:45 today. Kickoff at 2:45. You can catch that on both 97.5 and 1280. The Utah Royals taking on Angel City. 6:15 pregame with a 6:45 kickoff on 97.5. And then you can catch the Salt Lake Bees taking on the Sacramento River Cats. 6:20 pregame on 1280.
No more hockey.
No more hockey. And
don't tune in thinking you're going to get hockey. There's no more hockey.
I know. Would have been fun to have that Game 7 tomorrow. I would have loved to have the Game 7 tomorrow. And I think, I'm still disappointed there's not a Game 7. I think there's a lot of people around the city of Utah that there's still not a Game 7. But as we mentioned earlier, man, there's still so much positives to take away from this Mammoth, from the Mammoth making the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so many positives that you can take from their bright future and what's to come for the Utah Mammoth.
Can't wait.
Absolutely. Christian, thanks for hanging out, man.
I love Saturday mornings, dude.
Absolutely.
I love being here. Can't wait to be here next week.
Big shout out to Sean behind the glass, pushing the buttons, making the magic happen. And big thank you to you for listening and tuning into the Saturday show. Don't forget to listen all week as we break down the Mammoth being eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, as well as everything NBA and everything NHL playoffs on our weekly shows. Make sure to download the KSL Sports app to take us anywhere you go. This has been another edition of the Saturday show here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This year, experience the NHL playoffs your way. Want to watch a single, do or die Game 7, a full week of heavy-hitting back-and-forth series? Then check out Sling's 1, 3, and 7-day passes. Watch the chase for the cup on ESPN and TNT, starting as low as $4.99. No long-term contracts or overpaying. Just live hockey at home or when you want it. Sling lets you do that. Visit sling.com to learn more.